You know, it's all fun and games on social media until somebody says, check the scoreboard, which is what a fan did with Antonio Brown yesterday. Antonio Brown engaging with fans, and then one of them posted an image of JuJu Smith-Schuster with the designation that he was the Steelers 2018 MVP. Oh, Steelers Steve, that's a raw nerve. That's a raw nerve, and that got Antonio Brown to respond. He went all in on JuJu Smith-Schuster at that point. Boy fumbled the whole postseason in the biggest game of the year. Everyone went blind to busy making guys famous. Not enough reality these days. I don't know what any of that means, but I do know that it means this. It's a shot at JuJu Smith-Schuster, and that sparked an interesting afternoon on Twitter because, to his credit, Chris, JuJu Smith-Schuster was not taking any more crap from Antonio Brown. He tweeted his way out of Pittsburgh. Antonio, you've won. You got out. You got your money. Shut up about the Steelers and move on. There is nothing good that comes from you taking shots at anyone in Pittsburgh now that you're not in Pittsburgh anymore.
No, I mean, it definitely does him no good. I don't understand it. It's really a bad look. I mean, it makes him look a little bit insecure. There's no other way to say it about Antonio Brown. I mean, it's obviously showing the cards that there was jealousy and all the things that we talked about at the end of the regular season last season, where Antonio Brown felt disrespected. He was bothered by the fact that JuJu Smith-Schuster was named team MVP. And listen, JuJu Smith-Schuster is right. He's been nothing but supportive of Antonio Brown. With all the issues Antonio Brown's had off the field the last 2 years, JuJu Smith-Schuster's been in his corner from the get-go, even when things got ugly, okay, with Antonio Brown. He was still very supportive of him. So, yeah, it is not a good look for Antonio Brown. And, again, Antonio Brown, I just don't understand it. And to say, okay, yeah, JuJu Smith-Schuster fumbled in the biggest moment, add fuel to that fire. Smith-Schuster's admitted it. And really, Antonio Brown, he just can't talk about performances in big games, because really arguably the next week was every bit as a big game, and you weren't even there that week to get ready and prepare for the game, and then weren't allowed to play, and you want to blame the Steelers because they didn't let you play because you broke like 9-team rules, but somehow that's the Steelers' fault. So I'm on Team JuJu with this one all the way.
And look, the logic is very simple, and we now have the evidence. The Steelers named JuJu Smith-Schuster the MVP that week. The players became aware of it on Tuesday. On Wednesday, Antonio Brown had his blow-up and walked out of practice and didn't show up again. Wanted to come in and play on Sunday, and Mike Tomlin told him no. And it's clear now that it was that jealousy, that very basic human emotion. Is it one of the 7 deadly sins? I don't know, but it reared its ugly head here, and it got Antonio Brown to a boiling point, and it still exists. It's still there. The resentment and the jealousy of the guy who was going to take Antonio Brown's place and now is taking his place in Pittsburgh because Brown wanted out of town. And some of the things that Smith-Schuster said in response to Brown, all I ever did was show that man love and respect from the moment I got to the league. I was genuinely happy for him, too, when he got traded to Oakland with a big contract. Now he takes shots at me. Crazy how that big ego has got to be to take shots at people who show you love. That's JuJu Smith-Schuster. And it really is astounding to me. And it makes me wonder, Chris, how much of this routine that we saw from Antonio Brown January, February, and into March before he was traded, how much of it really was engineered and calculated, and how much of it was just Antonio Brown being Antonio Brown? And, it's not like he won a strategic game that he played. He just was being him. The Steelers were going to move on without him anyway. And it looks like he came out of it with this carefully crafted victory when, like I've said time and again, maybe the Steelers just wanted him out. Ben Roethlisberger may have said, I want him out. And what he said on social media really didn't matter.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe it didn't. Either way, I mean, he hasn't handled himself right or correctly since the season ended. I don't really understand, again, what he accomplishes by taking these shots at JuJu Smith-Schuster. I guess the big thing I would talk about with Antonio Brown and his issues here, again, it's just showing you that he's a handful and that the Oakland Raiders are going to have to deal with a guy who, if you don't get him the ball and he's not comfortable and his ego's not being placated to, you better watch out. It's just more evidence. And I think the big thing to me, again, where I go back to this, here we are, Pittsburgh still having to hear about Antonio Brown. I just don't understand why they let him out the door so easily. I don't. I understand that they wanted to be done with it, but I want to argue at the same time, again, it kind of makes it look like, you're letting the bad guys run the show there in Pittsburgh. Oh, I want to get out. I'm out of here. I think Pittsburgh could have sent a stronger message to their team and the rest of the NFL, because we've heard that teams are not happy with the way the Pittsburgh Steelers handled the Antonio Brown situation. If they drew more of a concrete line or a line in the sand here to say, no, we're not just going to let you go out the door and break team rules and act like a fool and get whatever you want. That, to me, is also part of this issue. Antonio Brown just got emboldened by what he did. He feels like he's the man. I mean, he's making comments. I want to show people how to do better business, even though I think this is the only time in the history of the league this is going to happen. I mean, they really placated to his ego more there, and I guess that's where I blame Pittsburgh in this whole situation to a degree as well.
And that's why I can see other teams being upset with the Steelers for giving in and allowing this precedent to be created where players think they have power and control now. And what it's going to require is someone to stand up to a player like the Eagles did in 2005 with Terrell Owens to push the balance back in the other direction. Now, the Raiders are going to have to deal with this guy, and you dealt with John Gruden. If you're John Gruden, his first meeting with Antonio Brown, when they're allowed to meet and when they're allowed to converse as part of the offseason program, what does Gruden say to Antonio Brown based on your experience?
My experience is I don't think he's going to say much as far as like, hey, you need to do this or do that. I think more of what John Gruden's going to do with Antonio Brown is play the role of salesman. He's going to sell the offense to Antonio Brown. He's going to sell the fact that the offense is going to be orchestrated around Antonio Brown. He's going to sell the fact that, man, I'm going to get you lots of touches and you're going to be towards the top of the league in receptions and yards and all of those type of things. And then he's going to sell his offense in general to Antonio Brown, like I've told you in the past, where he's going to show Jerry Rice running certain John Gruden plays from the years with Joe Montana, and he's going to show Tim Brown and all these other famous receivers who have been in the John Gruden West Coast like system, and show Antonio Brown, listen, this is going to be you for my offense. And he's going to hope that Antonio Brown will just buy in from that standpoint and be a part of the team. But he's not going to make like a, hey, I need you to be on time and do all that type of stuff. I don't envision that going down, at least in the first few conversations with Gruden and Antonio Brown, in my experience, Mike.
If you're a teammate of Brown now in Oakland, I'm trying to figure out how you react to this. And do you tiptoe on eggshells with him? Are you concerned about what kind of a guy he's going to be? Is he going to turn his wrath on you at some point?
Yeah.
Like, do you have to defer to him? Do we have to vote him team MVP preemptively so we don't have an issue with him?
Right.
And I keep coming back to Derek Carr, man. I'm telling you. The Larry Fitzgerald comments from March, when he said that Antonio Brown may not realize how good he has it, and that Antonio Brown could find out the hard way that not having Ben Roethlisberger makes it harder to be as good as he's been. If he thinks he's open and Carr doesn't throw it, if he is open and Carr throws it and it doesn't hit him in stride, or if he's got to, lunge or jump or gets blown up because the ball's placed in a spot where a safety can legally and cleanly hit Antonio Brown in a way he hasn't been hit since he was hit by Vontaze Burfict. I mean, if that kind of stuff happens, it's not going to be Brown's fault. It's not going to be Gruden's fault. It's going to be Derek Carr's fault. And I think he's the guy who needs to be the most concerned by everything we've seen from Antonio Brown from the end of the season until yesterday with the assault against JuJu Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, no, listen, your question about how are players going to receive Antonio Brown, are they going to tiptoe around him, how is it going to play out in the locker room? Listen, I mean, Antonio Brown obviously has a social media fix. I mean, to me, it's mind-blown emoji on why he's even worried about answering some guy who says JuJu Smith-Schuster was the team MVP, and he feels like he has to respond to that guy on Twitter. To me, when you're Antonio Brown, come on, just take the loved ones and respond to the ones that are all love and move on, be positive, go forward. But teams, the players in the locker room, I mean, no, Antonio Brown's been anointed somewhat king of the locker room right off the bat. I mean, players are going to know, damn, I don't want to really say anything even close to insensitive about Antonio Brown on social media. So they're never going to, nothing is going to get close to negative there. But two, they've seen the way way John Gruden's acted since he signed Antonio Brown. The players have also seen the fact that, 3 years, $50 million on top of that. So they know where he stands in the pecking order. And money talks a lot of the times in the locker room. And when there's money on a certain player, the rest of the locker room knows, man, can't mess with this guy. He's kind of king of the squad right now. And that's what Antonio Brown is for John Gruden and the Raiders.